are you doing? Fun? I feel like that's the most, the thing about birthdays as we age is like, it should be a special thing. Something interesting happened today. And it's like never like that for me anymore. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I have to ask Sarah for this. And then yeah, I was gonna say, where was that sentence gonna end? I don't know. Gretchen and I might be the same age. Someone that's not like a vicious game. I would say even Jaguars. I'll tell you. Maybe 42. Right? The NFL schedule. Sure is. I remember that. Yeah, Jaguars. Yeah, Jaguars. I'm glad that it's not me. Oh. Yeah. No, technically a winnable game. Yeah, I don't know.
He's next to me, don't worry. He loves it.
No, and the Steelers are like that. So
No, he loves it next to me.
My honor and pleasure.
See that?
I don't need him any closer.
Gretchen, it's his honor and pleasure.
Mel, what did you,
What did
I
he
missed
say?
something over here. Oh boy, there was a zinger. Do you want your old seat back?
Don't worry, I'll get him. Don't worry, you have 2 meetings left, Greg.
No, Mike's right here. No, Mike's right here.
And I just figured it was easier just to sit down instead of changing the sign.
I better put my mic on mute.
Yep. Push to talk.
Push to talk.
Push to talk.
I'm doing a half of the next one. She's
Push to talk.
behind.
Push to talk. I missed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's a baby. She's like 40.
42.
Oh.
Great.
I can't wait till 50 though. I say early 40s. Did she just say she can't wait till 50? Yeah.
Wednesday. What'd you say there?
Wednesday.
Wednesday's gonna have a zinger.
Yeah. Pretty soon, man.
I can't.
Hot flash.
Not that part. That part I want to be done by then. I've heard it's the huh? Everyone that other
Oh, I'm not surprised.
That's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
You just stop burning. Every single one, 2, 18. So yeah. Yeah, and actually, someone who was early 40s.
Maggie said we were redoing the board package.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Abington Heights School Board meeting for Wednesday, October 18th. Would everyone please rise and pledge the flag?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. O'Day, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Abdallah,
Here.
Mr. Azar,
Here.
Mr. Fleming? Mrs. Henderson?
Here.
Mrs. Karam?
Here.
Mr. Medensky?
Here.
Mr. Robeson?
Here.
Mrs. Tierney?
Here.
Mr. Acker?
Here.
8 present.
Thank you. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
So moved.
Second?
On the motion, any changes? Roll call, please.
Mr. Abdullah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Medensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the meetings of September 20th and October 4th?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any changes? Roll call, please.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Medensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Are there any board reports at this time? We'll go with Mr. Azar first.
Sure. We had a very robust extracurricular committee meeting on September 21st. I'll go through a few of the things that we talked about and that we went through. First, Mrs. Covell, the music department chair, spent a considerable amount of time at the committee's request reviewing a lot of the capital needs of the auditorium, which got a lot more specific than even in the facility study. It was pretty stunning to hear everything. I had heard a lot of the things before, but she went through in really great detail. And there's definitely a lot of things on that list that I'm hopeful that the board can address in the near term. One of the issues I know administration jumped on right away. We've all talked about the fact that we have ADA issues in all of our schools that we're going to hopefully address in the near term. The auditorium doors really needed to be replaced. And in the last couple of weeks, administration actually already had those doors replaced. So if you go into the high school, there's brand new doors to go into the auditorium, which are now accessible for ADA, which is great. There's a bunch of other things that administration is working on. I know that one of the big items that Mrs. Covell requested and has been requesting for a while is new curtains for the auditorium, which they're a very expensive item, but the ones that we have are they're very old. They're being held up with duct tape, to be honest, in some places. And we don't have any bids yet, but I know that administration is working on that. So I was just excited to hear the committee be very supportive of a lot of these needs, and hopefully they can be addressed as we move forward. Second item I'll mention is scoreboards for the high school gymnasium. I'll back up a little bit. So we had put out an RFP that the administration did several months ago asking for proposals for someone to come in and look at our scoreboards and marketing in general of our extracurricular facilities, and we didn't honestly get any responses from that RFP. So, and that's not uncommon. A lot of firms, they don't want to respond to an RFP. They want to bid on individual projects. So administration went back out and actually solicited proposals specifically for the high school gym. And then for those of you that aren't in there a lot, the scoreboards in there have been breaking down for a while, and they're old. They really need to be replaced. And the best proposal that came from a company called Power AD, which creates these beautiful video scoreboards. So the proposal, and it's on the agenda for tonight, would be to put 2 scoreboards in that gymnasium. And the advertising that they can sell, this company basically handles all the advertising. They believe, and I think it's aggressive, but they believe that we can recoup the investment that we would make up front, which is about $80,000 to buy these 2 new video scoreboards, within as fast as maybe a year. So even if it's within a few years, if you can put brand new scoreboards in there for no cost over time, I think that's a great thing. And they can be used for athletic events, for dances, for graduation, like we had last year in there. So there's just a lot of great uses, I think, for those scoreboards. And if you go around to a lot of the other school districts, that's what a lot of school districts are doing. They're advertising and paying for a lot of these items. The third item on the list that I have to talk about is, and Dr. Schaefer brought this up in the meeting, we had heard from a lot of community members about the baseball and the softball fields, and I know that we have talked about perhaps maybe eventually turfing those fields. A lot of school districts started to do that. We had discussed in that meeting the possibility of pursuing some capital improvements to the athletic fields that would not be turfing them, but would be bringing in a company to do some extensive capital investment into those fields. So I think it's on the agenda tonight. We can talk about it in a little more detail. I think it's very necessary. I think it's a great idea. It's a much, much smaller capital investment in the near term than turfing those fields. And if anybody remembers, the feedback from the community, we just live in a bad weather area, and those fields have terrible drainage. And so hopefully that can be remedied. We had a few other things we talked about also. I would just encourage everybody, there's some pretty detailed minutes that go through a lot of these things, but we talked about the turf maintenance. That's been brought up in the last couple of meetings. Dr. Schaefer went out to Deluxe, the company that installed the turf, and they're not recommending that we do any more maintenance than we're already doing to the turf. They said that we're doing everything that's really necessary there. The storage space for athletics around the high school is in great need. So we went into some detail and talked about some ideas on how we could address those needs. And then we did circulate the first draft of some renderings that the board a few months ago asked KCBA to do for a potential addition at the high school, which would be a wellness center / field house. The hope would be that that could be a cornerstone of some kind of private capital campaign. It's only a first draft, and we wanted to solicit some feedback from community members so that we could give that feedback to administration so that they could continue to work with KCBA on those potential drawings. So that's it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warren. I wanted to give just a 5-minute update, and I know you see a PowerPoint and you're nervous, but it's going to be 5 minutes. We've actually, as a technology committee, come up with a recommendation for the one issue that has been outstanding for a number of years, and that is device allocation. And so I wanted to share with you the recommendation we're going to have to the board tonight. We're not going to vote on it. I'll post the presentation on the website. But for a future meeting, this is the recommendation that we want to go with. And to start off, our group wanted to make sure we knew what the goal was. Quite frankly, as an IT person, my approach on this was everybody gets a device. And when we look at what the actual goal of what we're trying to do, in tying it back to the Abington Heights vision, is to implement a sustainable, scalable, and equitable technology distribution model that ensures all students for all grades have cost-effective access to appropriate computing devices that enhance the learning experience. So that's really the goal. And when we agreed on that, the options became a little more clear of where we wanted to go with this. So what we're recommending, out of all the recommendations we came up with, and I'm going to go over some of them that didn't make the cut and why, but our recommendation is to have Chromebooks, upgraded Chromebooks for grades 5 through 12. The advantages of having this one-to-one, one device per student for grades 5 through 12 is it does meet the checkbox of equitable access. The replacement life is a lot better with the new Chromebooks. We have a balance of utility and cost, and I'm going to get into a little bit of the cost numbers, but for what the students need and for how much they are, this option was the best one. And it was unanimous, too, with the group. Elementary screen time, that's an interesting topic. Do we want devices for our younger students in elementary school? And that was not a high priority. In fact, there's some studies out there, and I reference them here, where we do want to limit screen time at the elementary level. We also looked at the recycle process being an advantage. And if we go with this option, it frees up some money to actually upgrade some of the devices that we really need to upgrade, which is the lab device instruments. A lot of those, especially in labs, require higher power, switching between applications. So instead of investing money in really good laptops for everybody, we're actually trying to make sure that the investment goes into the right spots, and that is the community labs that we have. And also, we looked at maintenance and development effort, and this deployment effort, and this option here is definitely better than the other ones that we looked at. Of course, some disadvantages are The Chromebooks operate on a specific operating system, and they're not the best, devices in the world, but they're not the worst. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means. So the Chromebooks that we're actually looking at delivering to the students, 5 through 12, is an upgraded one from before. I mean, that's been a complaint for years, that the Chromebooks aren't that good. So what we wanted to do, again, is balance utility versus cost. So the Chromebooks are a little more expensive for each one, but we do have an improved memory and space with a solid-state drive, which means it starts up way quicker. So that's the actual device that we're looking at getting for each of the students, 5 through 12. Now, here are some of the options, and believe me, we looked at probably about 7 or 8 options. I'm only going to go over just a few, the top ones. First of all, the do-nothing alternative is really bring your own device. The challenges with that is you get into have and have-nots real quick. You also have a lot of class disruptions because everybody has a different type of device. Now, the advantage to that is there's no cost. But the challenges far outweigh we have Justin, our IT director out there, we asked him if it would increase the number of tickets, and he said yes. So the other option, which I thought going into this effort was the way to go, is 1-to-1, one device per student, grades 1 through 12. Now, the cost is significantly higher for that option. And the challenges are obviously the cost, but also would require professional development for the elementary schools level. And also, we have that screen time dilemma of how much screen time should younger students, be experiencing. And then, will the younger students really utilize a Chromebook of that size? And then finally, and this looked good on paper, but when we costed it out, it's very expensive, $950,000, where we have the Chromebooks for 5 through 9, and then the high schooler, or 5 through 8, and then the high schoolers get a laptop. The disadvantages there was the cost and the device longevity. Laptops are not going to last as long as the Chromebooks, obviously. There's a lot more complex parts. And utility, will everyone at the high school level, do they really need a laptop? So the committee really challenged each other on whether or not that's the case. So really, when we looked at some of the negatives, those were the negatives that eliminated the 3 options that we had.
Can you just explain briefly the difference between a Chromebook and
Oh, sure. Yeah. So a Chromebook is a device that it's really on a different operating system. It's pretty streamlined. It's for single applications. It's something that it actually is a device. It looks like a laptop or a yoga, if you've ever seen one with the screen that folds over, as opposed to a laptop, which is, a full-on operating system, has a full suite of applications. It can handle a lot more things. But for what we're doing, we're not gaming, obviously, or anything like that. So the Chromebook with the upgraded processor is the way to go. So it acts more like a laptop, but it's less maintenance and less cost. All right? So that's the recommendation. Now, I did want to just take 2 minutes to talk about where the technology committee has gone with all the projects that we have going on. When you think back to 2021, we had a number of challenges. The quality of the Chromebooks were bad. We had network issues. We didn't have an Active Directory. That's where the list of all the people's IDs and everything reside. That was not working correctly. And so when we came together as a committee, we did a couple new things. One was we got a new IT director, and he's here right now. And the first thing we did was in 2022, we actually put together a new website. So people probably forget already. It's only been 1 year. They probably forget the old website. So the new website is definitely an improvement. Justin, our technology director, also took a look at the access points to improve performance. So we want to make sure we're allocating network resources to the right spots where needed, and places where we don't need it, we're not spending money and effort there. Also, our conference room connectivity got a lot better, and we also created a strategic plan. So what did we do this year? We did a ton. I mean, we did more than this, but these are the major ones. We installed new network switches. We installed our safety application called Raptor. We increased our video surveillance. We increased the number of two-way radios that we have. We also am going live, and Justin, keep me honest here, is it November 14th? November 14th is single sign-on. So what that means is you sign on to your device, and you're also into a number of applications, so you don't have to remember the 25 passwords, and then you forget to and have to reset those, and then you don't remember if you reset those or the other applications. So single sign-on's a big deal, and the only way that could happen is if Justin cleaned up the Active Directory, which he did. So Active Directory is now in a much better place than it was 2 years ago. And the big thing that came up, a couple weeks ago was the core server replacement. So we had new switches. So a lot of work has been done, and I never really gave the committee, not me, the committee never gave an update as to all the accomplishments since 2021. So, the board itself, approved a lot of resources to make this happen, but the execution, occurred over the last 2 years, and so we're in a much better place.
Phil, excuse me, if
yeah.
I can interrupt. I also want to commend Justin for getting grant money for some of the equipment, some of those switches. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he got grant money for like 50% of the cost of the hardware, so that was excellent.
Yes. Good point out. And so, just one more thing, and then I'll take questions. The plans for 2024, the big thing is, we've invested in Infinite Campus. We're not utilizing all the functionality that it has, so we're going to be looking at Infinite Campus enhancements. We couldn't even do that if we had the existing servers that we had before and the network infrastructure. We couldn't do any of that. So we're in a place where we can really move forward now. Execute our one-to-one device strategy execution, the option that I just mentioned. Improving and increasing building surveillance. We've done some things, but we plan on increasing that. And of course, my biggest pet peeve is the phone system prompts. But obviously, that wasn't a top priority. We had to get some of these infrastructure things done. So really, hats off to the technology committee. I want to thank Dr. Vitale for taking all our ideas and making it actually happen. And Justin has been just wonderful since he joined the team last year. Sometimes I have to ask him, we're not doing too much now, right? Because we want these things to be good quality. And the committee members, and everybody on the committee brought their own perspective. For example, Emily has children in the district, multiple children, and she has a lot of pain points to share with the group and solutions. From a parent perspective, Anthony is very good at, after we talk about all these detailed things, Anthony will ask these common sense questions like, a great sanity check for some of the things that he asks. And Greg does a wonderful job making sure that not only is it cost effective, but the quality of what we're trying to do is where we need it. So the technology committee has met a lot, and so we've done a lot. So I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil.
Did you have a question?
Would it be okay if I asked our student representatives what their feedback in the high school? Are you using these books, Chromebooks, or do you have your own laptops? And is it much easier? Are you able to? Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and speak first. I will say that in the high school, we're actually not allowed to use our own personal devices and bring them in at any grade level, I believe. So at school, we have to use the Chromebooks, but at home, we can use any sort of devices or laptops that we have. But as for the Chromebooks, I would say that the functionality of them really varies on the generation of the Chromebook or the type of Chromebook that every student has, and every student and every class obtains their Chromebooks at a different time. So of course the functionality and the processing and the rate at the efficiency of the Chromebooks, it really does vary. Me personally, I know this is just like anecdotal evidence, I really don't have a huge problem with the Chromebook. The only personal gripe that I have with it is the connectivity issues, which is currently being amended by the IT director and is being advanced with the different, the server updates. All right, thank you. So me personally, I think that replacing the Chromebooks is a good idea, but I think being cost efficient is also very, very important, because how important is replacing the Chromebooks? And I think that we need a large amount of student opinion in order to fully make a well-informed decision about it. I'll pass it over to Owen.
Aiden said it very well. I think one of the biggest issues is that it's not a kind of a uniform device across all the different grade levels. There's different generations of computers, and that'll really affect like an individual's learning ability. If, say, the kid next to him has the newest model and he's 3 years behind, the functionality between those two devices is going to vary drastically. And besides that and the connectivity issues, those are really the only two big ones I can think of at this moment.
Thank you for your update, guys.
So our intention is when students enter 5th to give them a new device, and then when they enter 9th to give them a new device. So it won't be across kind of 6 or 7 years like it is now, to hopefully help with the slower devices and the devices that are nearing end of life.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Robeson? Other board reports? Mrs. Tierney?
I don't have a board report. I have a report from the AEIO. It's not a committee, it's the AEIO. They had their October meeting, and they received quite a few proposals, but they are going forward with approving funds for the high school's Science Olympiad program. So they've earmarked funds, and they will be giving a check to the Science Olympiad program that I believe that we're approving tonight. So the AEIO is giving funds for the Science Olympiad. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd
Mr.
also just like to, Mr. Robeson.
Just one other thing that I forgot, because it's hot off the press, and I just got the note here. We had applied for a grant for $105,000 for teacher laptops, and that was just granted recently. So that didn't make the presentation, but that's going to help.
Wonderful.
So
How much did you say?
$105,000.
Excellent.
Great.
I would like to just compliment both the extracurricular and the technology committees. You guys have done a great job and truly made a difference.
Well, I just want to say I'm glad I went before Mr. Robeson, because everybody knows I love a good PowerPoint presentation, but I didn't show up with one today.
Okay. The next item would be our student reports, Aiden and Owen.
All right, so today I'm going to be doing the academic reports. Progress reports were posted to Infinite Campus on Monday, 10/9. Teachers attended various professional development sessions on 10/9 and 10/10. Learning support teachers participated in OGAP training. Administrative led personnel development on diversity and inclusion. Trauma-informed care and understanding behaviors from the NEIU. And there was science curriculum writing done on October 9th and 10th. A group of students was selected to participate in World Polio Day and at a Leaders Summit at the Geisinger Commonwealth Medical School on October 24th. The Period Club will have a booth, and several aspiring medical field students will also be attending with Dr. Sabi and Ms. Tioni. Spirit Week is this week? Yep, happening right now. In celebration for the homecoming dance being held this Saturday on the 21st. Parents have begun receiving weekly notifications about missing grades and failing assignments through Infinite Campus. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
As for the athletics side of things, a little bit of a lengthy report today, so bear with me. Lots of good things happening over here. So for the cross-country team, the boys' team is currently 16-15 overall. The girls' team is currently 22-0 and ranked number 1 in league competition and ranked number 10 in the PIAA 3A state rankings. In the cluster meet at Valley View on October 2nd, the team had 7 girls run below the time of 20:30, which has never been done before in PIAA District 2 history. The girls also finished as runners-up in the Carlisle Invitation to the Tatnall School, which is a private school in Delaware, currently ranked 4th in the country. Senior Day was today, Wednesday, October 18th, which was followed by our home meet at the AHMS home course. Moving on to boys golf, the boys completed a perfect regular season with a 14-0 league record and won the LIAA 3A League Championship to finish 16-0. In the PIAA District 2 Class 3A golf tournament, Alec Hamilton emerged as the gold medalist, winning the district crown with a 1/par 71. Right behind Alec and finishing as the silver medalist was Cade Kelleher, who shot a 2/par 72. Both Alec and Cade represented District 2 at the PIAA State Golf Tournament at Penn State on Monday, October 16th and Tuesday, October 17th. The boys also won the PIAA District 2 team tournament to qualify for a team trip to Penn State today, Wednesday, October 18th, to compete for the PIAA 3A team championship. After a tough battle throughout the day, the boys ultimately finished 5th in the state 3A tournament today. Congratulations to the entire team on their amazing accomplishments this season. Moving on to girls golf, the girls golf team finished the regular season with a 6-5 overall record. Both Rose and Kate Peters qualified for PIAA District 2 Class 3A playoffs. Rose Peters placed 2nd overall at the Scotts Greens Classic on September 9th. For field hockey, our field hockey team is ranked 19th in the state of Pennsylvania. The team is being led by Madison Zaleski, who scored her 50th career goal on Monday, October 2nd in a win over Tunkhannock. Zaleski is currently ranked 7th nationally in goals and total points. In Pennsylvania, she is currently 3rd overall for points with 64 and 4th in goals with 29. Mary Grace Sabatini is number 1 nationally in assists with 27, and Peyton Paulman is 9th in assists with 18. In Pennsylvania, Peyton is 3rd in assists and 12th in total points, while besides leading in assists, Mary Grace is also 9th in total points. The team's current record is 13-0-1, and over the course of the season, the team has scored 105 goals and only given up 7 goals all season. Moving on to football, with the football season, 5-3 overall and ranked 2nd overall in PIAA District 2 Class 5A standings. Our homecoming game is this Friday, October 20th versus North Pocono at 7 p.m. at the high school turf. Senior Mason Fedor was nominated for the Max Preps Week 8 Pennsylvania High School Athlete of the Week Award for his efforts last Friday in a win over Scranton High School. Mason caught 7 passes for 113 yards and a touchdown and had 3 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown, 8 tackles and a sack in a 14-0 win over Scranton. Has 53 tackles, 6 TFL and 5 INTs, and 44 receptions for 681 yards and 8 touchdowns this season. We can all help Mason win this award by voting an unlimited number of times on the Max Preps Pennsylvania High School Athlete of the Week Award page. Boys soccer. Currently 13-2 overall, 11-2 in LIAA, and ranked number 1 in PIAA District 2 Class 4A power rankings. Currently sitting 1st place in LIAA Division 1 standings. Senior night is this Thursday, October 19th at 6:30 p.m. versus Scranton. District playoffs begin during the week of October 30th. For girls soccer, the team is currently 16-0 overall and 10-0 in league play. The girls are currently ranked number 1 in PIAA District 2 Class 3A Power Rankings. The girls clinched their second consecutive league title on Monday, October 9th, after beating Valley View 8-1 on senior night. Sophomore forward Lilia Calvert broke the school record for goals per season with 46 and total points per season with 107, with 2 regular season games remaining. Girls tennis finished the regular season 13-2 overall and 11-2 league, and ranked number 1 overall in PIAA District 2 Class 3A Power Rankings. We won our 6th straight District 2 3A team championship last week, which now makes 13 out of the last 14 seasons for our girls. Susan Arp is the District 2 3A singles champion. Sona Hanamali and Mary Booth won the District 2 3A doubles championship. It's the second time in 3 seasons to achieve all 3 championships: district singles, doubles, and team championships. First time was in 2021. The team will be competing in the first round of the PIAA 3A tournament next Tuesday, October 23rd at Birchwood Tennis at 12 p.m. Susan, Sona, and Mary will be competing in the PIAA 3A singles and doubles tournament at Hershey Racquet Club on Friday, November 3rd. The first rounds begin at 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. respectively. The girls' volleyball record is 13-7 and 10-4 in Lackawanna League, and currently ranked 4th in PIAA District 2 Class 3A Power Rankings. Our girls will be hosting the district quarterfinal match on Wednesday, October 25th at CSE with a 6 p.m. start time. On Thursday, September 28th and Friday, September 29th, we took approximately 15 band members, varsity cheerleaders, and most fall sports team captains to each of our elementary schools to visit the children and remind them that to be a star, Comets are respectful, responsible, and ready at the PBIS pep rally. Members of our AHHS media crew also attended and captured some of the events of the days, which they have compiled into a highlight video. For winter sports physicals, once again, through our partnership with LVHN, we are pleased to offer free on-site physicals at our high school for winter and spring sport athletes in grades 7 through 12 on Saturday, October 21st from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Physicals will take place at our school nurse's suite in the high school. Athletes must pre-register for your physical at the specified times available, and that link was emailed out to students and families last Thursday, October 12th from athletics. If you already had a sports physical to play at fall sport, you will only need to complete your recertification and will not require a new physical to be uploaded. The official first date for winter sports tryouts is Friday, November 17th. That's all. Thank you.
That's quite a report. Thank you very much. We'd like to change up the agenda a little bit and have public comment now, and then we'll follow it with the superintendent's report. So if anyone wants to make public comments, please come forward. We ask you state your name and where you live, and keep your comments to about 3 minutes. Any comments? Okay, then let's move on to the superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Acker. Last year was the, I guess it was the inaugural year where I provided a myriad of presentations regarding different types of data that we look at to inform our goals and our progress towards those goals. And for the first time, we provided data from the National Student Clearinghouse that I'm going to go into now. So I'll get my first slide up.
Oh, wait.
So while Mr. Azar did not have a PowerPoint presentation today, this is the birthday of Mr. Azar's mustache from 1987.
That is definitely a mustache.
Trans Am forthcoming.
There's actually many worse I had a whole portfolio of photos you could have chose from. I'm surprised you chose that one.
Well, we've got the portfolio. So Rod, you did trump Phil today. So.
Oh, I had a mullet.
All right. Yeah, we'll go on to the next one, or else we could just look at Rod's mustache all night long. So, hard transition to National Student Clearinghouse data. So last year was the first year that I presented this data, and the National Student Clearinghouse data archives data. In fact, it's the largest data warehouse of college and university data in the country. Holds it for 8 years and provides us with really valuable information about our graduates. Next slide. Yep. And we want to keep in mind, as I talk about that, we've got a lot of goals, but there's a couple things that are always at the forefront and priority. And one is to make sure that our students and staff are safe, and to provide the best in-person educational experience possible. I can say this now in 2023, close to 24, as we are starting to see research that supports conventional wisdom, and that is students learn better in front of teachers versus online. We had plenty of challenges during COVID, and we know what those are. So we've really doubled down to say, what can we do to enhance our experience? And finally is to create and maintain this dedicated K through college vision. So as I talk about Abington Heights and the value of our education and the value of our diploma, it does not stop at a student's senior year, and we'll have more on that. So the first slide that I'd like to show you, and I'll have this posted online, the report in its entirety, the percentage of graduating students enrolling in college immediately after graduation. For the class of 2021, that was 78%, with 73% at a 4-year and 5% at a 2-year. When I showed you this data last year, we did not have what they call the COVID dip, okay? We didn't have that data available, but now we do. And you can see in 2020 that decline, and then coming right back up in 2021. This is something that we will monitor. I can tell you that we are above substantially national averages, but this is important as we trace these cohorts through. We also take a look at the average over 8 years, which was 82%. And so this is what we call the first fall matriculation. And while this isn't important, it is not the key indicator that I would like to emphasize, which I will in a little bit. So then, where do Comets enroll after? Well, the class of 2021, 61% in-state and about 17% out-of-state. And this is a similar pattern that we have seen over the past 8 years. This is also a pattern that you will see in other school districts in other states. And if you have children in college, or if you've sent children to college, you know the difference between in-state tuition and out-of-state tuition. And that divide is growing. So it is really important for families to take a look at the value of an in-state education versus an out-of-state education, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So with that said, there are a couple key performance indicators or pre-college success indicators that are what I would call protective factors that are correlated with post-secondary success. And what I mean is, what types of programs or experiences or characteristics do students have that may aid in those students being more successful in college? One of them is the intensity of a high school curriculum. And the PA Future Ready Index reports that we have a high percentage of students that take rigorous coursework at the high school. I won't go through with you what counts as rigorous, but this is on the PA Future Index website that defines that. So that is a predictor that a lot of our students have. AP results. At the last meeting, I talked about Keystone results, PSSA results, and AP results. That also is a predictor. End of course exams, grades, SAT scores, dual enrollment. We have a leading dual enrollment program here with a lot of students taking advantage of that programming and matriculating to college with credits. These are all key performance indicators and are highly correlated with graduating on time. So why am I telling you all this? Because persistence is key, okay? We have to know what those early success indicators are, and we have to lead and coach our students into them. Working with our counselors, working with our teachers, working with our parents to ensure that we are wrapping our kids up in these protective factors and making sure that they have those characteristics and opportunities to be successful in the future. So this is one of the most important, if not the most important indicator that I like to follow, and it is the freshman to sophomore persistence, okay? If you return to school after your freshman year, you have a higher probability of graduating. Some of you, when you go to college, you may remember your friends your first year, and then the second year, you're like, where did some people go? So the second year persistence is very important. And over the past 8 years, 94% of AHS graduates who attended college returned for a second year. To give you an example of how much we beat the national average, it's 75.7% is the national average. And the PA system of higher ed is 76.8. And there is a lot of deviation in PA system of higher ed schools. So persistence varies tremendously, whether it's Cheney, Westchester, Clarion. You need to pay attention to these numbers because they not only reflect those characteristics that I just spoke about, but they also reflect the supports that the colleges offer. So I'm very happy to report that we have a very high persistence rate. That is also an indicator that we are preparing our students for post-secondary education. Many students drop out because they are ill-prepared. They may have graduated from college, but their curriculum was not rigorous. And then they get to college and they fail out with debt. So what about, I'm always asked about, well, what about public-private? We do deviate from the national norm here in a very good way. Our persistence rates are almost identical regardless of institution type for our graduates. And as you can see, that is a similar pattern over the last 8 years. Our students are prepared and are successful at all levels in all institutions. The next one is who's at more risk of returning. So I've talked about some of these things that hey, these are great predictors and things that we're doing really well, but we have to take a look to see across that continuum of post-secondary education experiences, where might we be lagging, okay? So nationally and locally, our persistence rates are lower for two-year, lower for two-year institutions, okay? So we know our two-year institution, post-secondary institution persistence rate is lower than our four-year. That's something that we need to work on. However, we are much higher than the national average. In 2021, it was 79% persistence rate, when the national average was 68%. So the question becomes, how might we better prepare our comets for the 2-year programs? And that is something that we work with our guidance counselors and our programs, and even on dual enrollment. We have a strong dual enrollment agreement with Johnson College. We don't have high numbers of enrollment, but that's something that we continue to work towards, so that students have the opportunity to engage in rigorous dual enrollment programming at 2-year universities while in high school with supports in place. So persistence leads to graduation. 70% of the class of 2017 completed a degree within 6 years. 77% of the class of 2015 completed a degree within 6 years, and the national average is 64%. And I say 6 years because this is a national marker. Nationally, the Center for Educational Statistics, they don't collect 4-year graduation data, because quite frankly, it doesn't happen as much because colleges have changed expectations. More credits, accepting less in. So this becomes the benchmark. Go to the next one. So I want to take a closer look at classes of 2014, 15, 16, and 17. And what you can see in the orange, you can't see the numbers there, but a majority of our graduates are completing programs within 4 years. That's this color right here. Less than 20% are graduating in 5 to 6 years. Now, we don't have the data that you would get from, say, a survey or a focus group to really talk to the kids about this. However, as we talk with our counselors and teachers and students when they come back, what I can tell you is they say things like, hey, thank heavens I had so many dual enrollment credits rolling into Penn State. It allowed me to finish on time. Or it allowed me to finish that 5-year engineering program in 4 years. So we have students that may not earn an associate's degree while they're at the high school, but they go into Penn State with 36 credits. So you're saving a lot of money. Next one. So the importance of that, amongst other things, is the longer that we take in school, the more money it costs. I found this piece of data interesting and I reported it last year, and I keep on coming back to it because it is somewhat alarming. It says, at what age can a 4-year graduate expect to break even relative to cumulative earnings with a high school graduate? The answer is 30 to 33. When you consider paying back loans, the time you're not perhaps working when you're a full-time student, and that continues to exceed as college tuition and fees grow at a much higher rate than inflation. It becomes very difficult to pay your student debts back. In fact, 10% of borrowers owe $80,000, comprising more than 45% of total federal education loans. 55% of the 2020 bachelor's degree recipients held an average debt of $28,400. And 23% of outstanding federal loans was held by borrowers who were 50 and older. Students are becoming more and more in debt with education. The cost of post-secondary education is exceeding inflation. The time that it takes for a student to pay off their debt is taking more time. The question I have is, what are we doing? And that's the point of these presentations. How are we preparing our students? And I tell you that we're doing a really good job, and we can do more. We're doing things like enhancing our dual enrollment programs. And we're doing that across the continuum, from Johnson College to the University of Scranton to Lackawanna College to Penn State and all the other dual enrollment articulation agreements that we put together with you. We have programs in the high school where we talk to students about this, where they take a look at their interests and their skills, and they see what schools and programs that are aligned to that. Too many students go off to college, pursue something, and then they find out, well, look, I really have no interest. We drill down into that at the high school. And we will continue to look at that and say, how can we refine that and do a better job so our students are better prepared? We can also use this data to help our families make more informed choices, to sit down and talk about persistence rates. You know, every parent should have the opportunity to talk to a counselor, take a look at this and say, okay, let's take a look at the institutions that your son or daughter are applying to. Which ones have the most support networks? Are there any that have low persistence rates? Because that's indicative of low support. Which ones have higher? So, how might this data inform our next steps as a community? We've talked about more targeted workshops with parents and students. And Pete Smith's done a great job. I had, in August, I met with about 30 students at a local coffee shop, and I asked them, what do you need? What would you like? And an inordinate amount of them talked about financial aid information. So went back to Mr. Smith, we talked about that, and we've provided more financial aid workshops and opportunities so that parents can get a deep dive in that to have a better understanding of what that means. We can survey our graduates to learn more about how we prepared or did not prepare them for post-secondary education. This is an area that we need to work on. We do not have an active alumni network. This is something that I talked with the AEIO about, and this is a project that we need to get underway so we can capture that information. We can examine how we're preparing and guiding our students for two-year workforce opportunities. This is really important. Again, I mentioned that with dual enrollment, opportunities for students to go out on internships, job shadowing, all of those different opportunities. And then we'll consider engaging graduates in workshops and learning activities to provide support during college and works. And I know Ms. Tioni does this, where we take opportunities to bring back recent graduates in order to provide workshops and talk to our students about lessons learned. What did they bring with them from Abington Heights that worked well? If they had a do-over, what would that be? And sharing that information with our recent graduates. And then finally, what might this data tell us about the value of an Abington Heights diploma? And I think about this a lot, right? I've said this before, it is a pillar of democracy, education is. And we have a heavy responsibility to provide an excellent education for all of our students. At the end of the day, we can hope that we get more money from the state. We can hope we get more grants. But at the end of the day, it's the board, elected by the community, that's entrusted with making sure that our education system and what we offer has value and is excellent. Last board meeting, I talked about K-12 data, the PSA, Keystone, SAT, dual enrollment, student survey results. That all tells us about the value. We take a look at some of these standardized test scores, and that's just a measurement of time, in time. They're excellent. We had the young gentleman up here, both of our, Mr. McVetti and Aiden, talking about updates from our high school. And I just stopped writing notes. I just listened. I'm like, wow. You know, I took it for granted. He's talking to me for 5 minutes about how successful our students are. And by the way, Miss Henderson was there. Our orchestra kids were up at Kalahari Resorts playing for a packed house of superintendents and school board members. Our kids are down at the high school preparing for Beauty and the Beast. I was in a room talking with board members before, hearing about the lack of sleep and all the things that our kids are doing running around. And that really speaks to the value, outside of not getting enough sleep, of what we offer. It truly is comprehensive. It's not just this singular focus. Yes, curriculum is our main gig, but there are other opportunities and programs that we offer and excel at. And then today, we extend that value in talking about the value of an Abington Heights diploma. Because it's not enough to follow our students to 12th grade. I would tell you we own them for a lifetime. Here I am providing you data with 6 years after. I want to know not only what happens in June, where are they 6 and 12 years later? We have to think about that data. And I know that anecdotally because everywhere I go, I run into alumni. So while we don't have this strong alumni network, I know that they're all around town. So their strength and presence, significant. I said finally on the last slide, well, I lied. So this is my finally slide. So how does this value impact our community? And this really is a gratuitous plug for future facility work, because we do have a heavy burden ahead of us, and we always do, because education is a pillar of democracy, and this is something that we've held up for years. And I talked about this earlier in April when I went all the way back to the 4 or 5 different school districts that made up Abington Heights 100 years ago. There's a strong relationship between school expenditures and housing values. So when I talk about value, what is the value to the community? So I just spoke about the individual student and that value, the family. How does that contribute? Students going to college, finishing in a timely manner. But what about our families that may not have children in the system? Well, I would argue, and the data supports this, that school expenditures are tightly correlated with housing values, particularly in high-performing districts. In fact, 30% of home buyers between the age of 33 to 42 named the quality of the school district as the top factor when choosing their neighborhood. And by the way, according to the 2021 census data that's been published, the median age in the Abington Heights is 42.5 years old. And I just put 30% as the top factor. But proximity to a successful school district is a top factor in all. So when you take a look at 3 to 4 factors that everybody takes a look at, square footage, things like that, schooling is always at the top. School reputation, academic performance, resources, and proximity influence desirability and demand for properties. Homes located in sought-after school districts tend to experience higher property values and often provide a solid long-term investment opportunity. The value of an Abington Heights education extends to everybody in the community, regardless if you have students in school or out of school. And this is important because the board will be talking about future facility plans that will mean investment into our schools. And I'm here to tell you that we need to think about that value. If I'm investing in a home, then I hope I get some return on investment, right? If I'm moving in with my family, I'm hoping I get some return on my investment. So over the last month, we've provided data to the community, and I hope that I have been able to connect some of this in a way that clearly articulates the value of Abington Heights and the decisions that we need to make, the outcomes that we chase, the standard of excellence that we uphold. If there are any questions, I can take them. Did I have one more slide? I so lied. I'll just keep this one. This is from 2021, but this is in case anybody doubted me about. I don't make up data. I really don't. I swear I don't. You know, I do pull it from reputable sources, and I quote this. But this is from the census data. This is from 2021, and I know that it's skyrocketing from here. But this is Abington Heights information, and the median value of an owner-occupied home, it's 1.5 times greater than the amount in Lackawanna County, 25% higher than Pennsylvania, and that's across all areas. And again, this was 2021. I was looking for more accurate, more up-to-date data, but I couldn't find anything that I could trust enough to put up here, so I settled with the more conservative data. But this just reinforces, what I've said, and this is also conventional wisdom. You go ahead.
Yeah, that was excellent. My son graduated in 2014, so I have the opportunity to have watched what happened then and see the change in the growth. Dual enrollment was just getting started then. But what I know that we took advantage of was the AP credit courses that transferred over for that financial savings. Also, the courses that were offered at that time were very beneficial to the classes of that time. I guess my question is, we've afforded the opportunity for our kids to get associate's degrees here for the last 4 years. How many students have taken advantage of that, and how are we as a district making sure that the courses that we're offering are suited for today's collegiate levels, both liberal arts schools, because I know we've made some world language changes, and are we doing the best we can with all the courses that we're offering now to deal with the colleges and the changes with college today?
Okay. So I'll take the first question. Take the first question first, right? Repeat that.
How many students have taken
Oh, yeah,
advantage
you're
of
right.
the
Okay,
graduated
right.
from Abington Heights with an associate's degree or
Right.
enough credits to have a huge financial savings moving on to a 4-year program?
So I'll go look back at that data, but I can tell you last year we had 2. So it's not a high number because it's a high bar. What I can tell you is that we have a lot of students that have accumulated a lot of credits. That sounds vague, but I can tell you that it's over 30, which is a lot. That's well over, or not well over, close to a year. So this is the benchmark that I hear a lot is, I had enough credits transferred in to give me a year, which I'm going to show you some numbers, which is a hefty sum of money. Now, we've also been working with Lackawanna College to make some of, or the pursuit of an associate's degree a little easier. So this year we had a philosophy instructor coming in to the high school during 9 Mod from Lackawanna College to teach that. We will continue to work with our staff at the high school, Ms. Tioni, Lackawanna College, our other partners to say, how can we get some of these other courses in, whether that be taking a look at our faculty to find out what expertise they have and can they offer that class? Because that kind of speaks to, I believe, your second question about how dynamic is a curriculum. And I would say it's constantly changing. When I say constantly changing, every year we ask these questions. We do it from books, we do it from projects. You know, when we go into some of the engineering programs, we say, are we using the most up-to-date software? If this student were to become an architect, would utilizing this software help them? I think Ms. Tioni would tell you right now, and I give this example for a reason, is the software they're using right now is what architects are using. Reddit. Yeah. So we are constantly looking at that to say, how might we better prepare our kids for that next step? Now, it's not enough that they persist, but that they are overqualified, they find it easy, and they're ready to go.
Thank you.
The world language changes.
How often do we look at different world languages? Like Mandarin, Chinese. Mandarin is a top language that really colleges are really looking at. It's a great opportunity for students in high school to take. I'm just wondering, how often do we look at the different language cycles that are more popular at the college level?
I think that's part.
We don't teach Latin. We don't have Latin, right? No. Okay.
I mean, it's a good question. I think that a similar answer to before is it's very dynamic. We take a look at that, but I'm going to tell you that world language is a little bit of a challenge. When I was in school, the push was we have to have Japanese. When I became a school counselor 10 years later, nobody was talking about taking Japanese. I'm glad I didn't take it. Not that there's anything wrong with the Japanese language, but that's a challenge area. However, this is also an opportunity with dual enrollment, right? So are we able to provide opportunities for kids that may want to get in to Mandarin or any other language? So that's something that we can capitalize on with dual enrollment.
I just look at sometimes with college credits, if you have from Abington Heights, if you had a AP or A for 3 years in a foreign language, you could opt out of those credits in college if that really wasn't your path where you were going. And it was a great way to opt out of courses that you knew you had to take. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? In that case, let's move on to our treasurer's report. Mr. Podensky?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warren. We started this month of September with a cash balance of $15,464,277. We, as you know, the real estate taxes are coming in. It was well over $16 million that we received this year, but our total monthly revenues were $18,400,660. We had net disbursements of $4,604,662, which leaves us with a cash balance of $29,260,275.
May I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report as given?
Second.
Any questions? It's a good night, Mr. Burdensky, no questions. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Budinski?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I ask that the board consider a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Budinski?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I ask the board consider a motion to approve the tuition reimbursement report for October 2023.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Budinski?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I'd ask the board consider a motion to approve the October 2023 volunteer list.
So moved.
Second.
Questions are on the motion? I'd just like to point out, I don't know if you've looked at this list, it's extensive, and what's really impressive is the number of parent volunteers.
Yep.
You know, we succeed because of our kids and our great teachers, but also because we have some amazing parents. Roll call, please.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Budinski?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I'd ask the board consider a motion to approve the request to establish the high school student activity account Science Olympiad.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Budinski?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I'd ask the board consider a motion to approve the agreement with the Scranton School District for Student 34A to attend the AEDY program.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Budinski?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I'd ask that the board consider a motion to approve the Power Ad campaign agreement.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion?
Rod, just for the record, after it's reimbursed, it's revenue generating for 10 years. So we generate revenue from this.
Yeah, I mean, it could be sooner than that, too, yeah. It's a actually, it's revenue generating immediately once it's paid for, so it's a 60-40 arrangement, 60% for the company, and then 40% for the school district. And then after the 10 years, it's 100% for the district. Or I'm sorry,
60 us,
for us,
40
40%
them.
for them.
After
right.
10 years, 100% us.
100% back to us.
Yeah,
That's
so my
right.
point is that we're going to make money on it.
That's the plan.
And also, the district has the rights to the ads, to review the ads on, right?
That's correct. Yeah, there's a lot of filters there, so.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson? Yes. Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Record, I ask that the board consider a motion to approve the amended resolution adopted July 19th, 2023 that authorized and secured a general obligation note of the school district in the maximum principal amount of $1,047,000.
So moved.
Second?
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I ask the board consider a motion to approve the Hummer Turf Grass Systems, Inc. agreements for both the softball and baseball infield.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
8-0.
The next item is a list of informational items, including use of the facilities. I would note that this use of facilities goes on for 2 pages. So suffice it to say that the school's being used, our school facilities are being used for more than just education. Yes, which is great. Is there any unfinished business? New business? I call for adjournment, and thank you all for a very productive meeting.
Real quick, this is Mr. Mirabelli's last meeting with us, so there is cake in the back to celebrate all his years of service to Abington Heights.
Do not get too sentimental, because Mr. Mirabelli will be here quite often, so it's for the record.
Here's the Phillies fanatic going to be here. I wish. Well, he's sitting in the corner already, isn't he?